video, I showed you how I covered this composition notebook using the peel and stick wallpaper from the Dollar Tree. I asked you if you'd be interested in seeing more paper crafts, and so many of you said that you would love to do more paper crafts. So today, I'm going to show you how I use these junior legal pads to create a really simple gift that you can give to somebody. And since you're using scrapbook paper, you can customize it to fit any holiday or any season or the person that you're giving it to. Now this is a really simple project. This is a great way to mass produce things for a craft fair, or if you're new to paper crafting, this doesn't require a lot of special tools, so you'll be able to get started right away even if you don't have a lot of the fancier punches and things like that. You just need a few things for this project. The legal pad that I'm using I got from Amazon, but I do know that they carry these as at Walmart as well. And I took a quick measurement of this, and it says so on the website too, but it is 5 by 8 inches, and the ones from Walmart are about the same size. So the cover that I'm going to be showing you today is based off of this size legal pad. Now unfortunately they don't sell this type of notepad at the Dollar Tree, but the ones on Amazon and Walmart are pretty inexpensive, so it's really not much more than if you would buy something at the Dollar Tree. And like I said, the measurements for the cover are going to be fit to these 5 by 8 pads. So if you would use a different style of notepad, you would have to adjust the measurements just a little bit. We're only going to need 2 pieces of cardstock to create the cover for this legal pad. And the great thing about this is, since cardstock already comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets, we're going to leave the 8.5 side the way it is, and I'm going to cut one piece down to 8.5 by 9. And then I'm going to cut the other one down to 8.5 by 5.25. And this is just standard weight cardstock. It's not the super heavy 110 pound. This is just the regular 65 pound cardstock. And then we'll need one other piece that you can cut from this larger scrap. And this will need to be 4.25 by 6.25. So this is really great too, because you don't need a ton of pieces of cardstock to create this. You can create one of them out of just 2 pieces, which, like I said, makes it really easy whenever you're mass producing things for a craft fair. Now we have to do a little bit of scoring. The sheet that we cut down to 8.5 by 5.25, we don't have to do anything to that one. The one that we cut down to 8.5 by 9, we're going to make just a few score marks on the 9-inch side. And I'll have everything in the description box for you too, so you don't have to remember all of these measurements. But we just have to do 4 score marks. So on the 9-inch side, you can see I have 9 inches across the top here. I'm going to score at 2 inches, at 2.25, at 7.75, and at 8. Now I did go ahead and make a template. So like I said, the measurements are going to be in the description box, but if you'd rather just take a screenshot here, I have the measurements of the 9 at the top, the 8.5 on the side, and then I have the measurements for each of the 4 score marks. So if it's easier for you to see it this way, go ahead and take a screenshot. Okay, now the one other thing that we need to score is the smaller piece. This is the one that we cut down to 6.25 by 4.25, and this one's really simple. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on both of the short sides and then a 1/2 inch on one of the long sides. So you can see here I have it in at the 6.25 mark. I'm going to score a 1/2 inch. I'm going to turn it once, do a 1/2 inch again, turn it one more time, and do another 1/2 inch. So we have a 1/2 inch border the whole way around on this smaller piece. Now before I start assembling everything, I'm going to go ahead and fold and crease on all of my score marks. I know there's, you know, some controversy out there whether you should fold into the score line or fold away from the score line. I don't really think it matters much. I think it's whatever you prefer. I usually fold into the score line, but whichever way you like to do it is okay. So on our smaller piece here, you can see I folded and creased all 3 of those sides. And then for this one, the 4 lines that we made, we're going to fold everything towards the center. So these 1/4 inch sections are a little bit tricky. Sometimes they're a little bit hard to work with. If you ever have a hard time folding on the 1/4 inch line, see, I kind of like to work it in a little bit before I actually bend it down. But if you ever have a little bit of trouble with that, getting that little 1/4 inch section, you can always lay it on the edge of your desk or on the edge of your scoreboard to help bend it over, because sometimes, you know, with that being just a 1/4 inch, it's a little bit tricky. So again, here on the other side, I'm going to fold in the first one. I always like to give it a little bit of a nudge first before I press it down with my bone folder. And then the little 1/4 inch section, we're going to work that in just a little bit so that I don't get a false crease here. And then once I feel comfortable that that is on the right spot, I'll fold it in and give it a crease with my bone folder. And that's all the folding and creasing we have to do for these ones. And now we can start assembling. So for the cover of mine, you can see I have the shorter flap on the right side so that it opens up this way. And this flap here is this one. You can see the difference between the 2 flaps. This one's a little bit wider than this one. And this flap here is just going to be to connect the other piece, which is this one. So you can use any type of adhesive here that you like. If you want to use double-sided tape, I'm going to use some art glitter glue because that's my favorite paper crafting glue. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm not putting any adhesive over that score line. I want a good bit of glue on this little flap here, but I definitely don't want to cross over that score line because that's going to be the place that holds our little notebook in place. So I got my art glitter glue here, and I'm going to add this piece over the glue, and like I said, I'm not crossing over that score line at all. I'm staying just a little bit away from it, and then once it's in place, I'll just push it down. And that's the basic body of our notebook. Now I like to keep the flap on the inside because even though we're going to cover this with decorator paper, I don't really want to see that line on the front of my cover. So that's why I put the flap towards the inside. Now the only other thing that we're going to do is this is going to be a pocket, but I'm going to show you a little bit later how I like to add some of the decorator paper first before I put the pocket in. The collection that I'm using for this notepad folio is called Our House by Cartabella. I'm not really sure if they make this one anymore. I've had this one in my stash for a long time, but I just really like all of the colors in it. And it does have a little bit of a fall feel to it. And I know, you know, it's getting towards the end of summer. We're not at the end of summer yet, but we're getting there. But as crafters, it's time to, you know, for us to think ahead to the next season. So I thought this would be a good way to transition into the next season, even though we're not quite there yet. So I've already pre-cut my mat pieces here, and like I said, I'll have all of these measurements in the description box, but I'll just run through these with you really quick. So I have one piece that is 8 1/4 by 5 1/4, 8 1/4 by 5 1/4. I have one piece that is 8 1/4 by 5. I have two pieces that are 8 1/4 by 1 3/4. I have another piece here that is 5 by 6. I have this small one that is 5 by 3 1/2, and this one is 5 by 3. So this is all of the matte papers that you'll need to decorate your cover. I chose 3 of the sheets out of that collection. I probably could have gotten away with just using 2 because they are double-sided, but I really wanted this pattern for my cover, and it's actually journal cards on the back side. So I didn't have another pattern on the back side of this one to work with, but I just love these little trees and I really wanted this for my cover. So before I get started laying down all of my mat pieces, I want to show you how I like to do the pockets first, because I just think it makes it a little bit easier. So this piece that I have cut here at 5 by 6 and this one at 5 by 3.5 are going to be the mats for our pockets. Now I have the pocket on this left hand side on the inside. So what I like to do is lay this 5 by 6 piece down first, and then I lay my pocket over it, because I just think it makes it a little bit easier. In the past, I've done it where I have forgotten to put, you know, the background piece down first, and I was able to slip it in there, but if I can remember to, I prefer to put it down first, because then I don't have to fight with it to get it slid into the pocket. So I'm using this really pretty floral side for the background, and I like to leave a little bit of a border around, so you can see I have about 1/8 of an inch, and I have about 1/8 of an inch here that I'm away from that score line, so I don't have to worry about this piece interfering with that fold or anything. And then before I put my pocket down, I do want to miter these corners a little bit. I always find that to be just a bit easier. So I'm just going to take a little bit of bulk off of each of the corners. And then it's up to you if you want to do this. I always like to take a little miter out of the top sides of the corners too. I just think it helps fit the pocket in just a little bit more. So now that we have our pocket flaps in place, I'm going to use the same art glitter glue. I use this for a lot of things. You'll see later where I'm going to use some double-sided tape. Now for this type of pocket, because it is gusseted, we have these flaps on the 3 sides. You could use double-sided tape here to adhere the pocket, and that adhesive wouldn't interfere at all with trying to slide things in or out. If you're just doing a flat pocket where you're just gluing the cardstock right down, you would want to make sure that you use a wet adhesive, because it will dry completely. If you use a double-sided tape, it'll stay a little bit sticky on the inside. So see, now that we have that matte piece in the background, I was able to lay my pocket right down on top of it with no problem. I don't have to worry about fitting anything on the inside. And when I did lay my pocket down, I made sure that the bottom of the pocket and the side of the pocket lined up with the side and the bottom of the notepad cover. And then I'm going to go ahead and use, I think I'm going to use this side, because I think I'm going to put some stickers over it. So I want it to be a little bit less busy. So this matte piece goes right over the top of the pocket. Now, like I said, I'm trying to keep this one kind of simple without using many fancy tools, especially if you're new to paper crafting. But if you have been paper crafting for a while, you've probably already figured it out that this would be a great place to use a circle punch, and you could create a little thumb notch so that you could get in and out of that pocket, but it's definitely not necessary. And I've also, if you have an envelope punch board, you can use the V side of the envelope punch board to create a little V, and that makes for a nice pocket too. So this is what I recommend, that you do this part first before you start doing anything else. Now I'm going to go ahead and run through and just cover everything else. The only part that's not going to have any scrapbook paper on it is this section here, and that's because that's where our notepad is going to go. See that I have all of my matte pieces in place on my cover, and the one piece that I have left is this piece that's 5 by 3. Now this is totally optional, you don't have to do this, but I always like to cover up this logo and this band that's at the top of the little notepad. It's really simple to do, it only takes an extra minute, and I think it just adds to that homemade look. Now for this, I do like to use some double-sided tape. So I'm going to run some double-sided tape right along the edge of this band that's at the top. I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up as close as I can get to the edge. And that's the only piece of tape that I'm going to use. I'm going to use my art glitter glue for the rest of it here. So I'm going to lift up that backer. And then for this piece, I'm going to make sure it's in the right direction. Since this is a direction, I do want to make sure that the hearts are facing the right way. And I'm just going to line that up right at the edge there and stick it down into that tape. And then I just like to take my notepad to fold it the rest of the way over. I'm using the weight and the corners of the notepad to make sure that it's wrapped around nice and tight. And then I just take my bone folder and rub it along the edges to create those creases. I feel like this is just a lot easier to do it this way than to actually use the scoreboard to create those marks, because we really don't need those hard crease lines. And then I'm going to go in with my art glitter glue, and I'm just going to add some all over the rest of this side of the paper. And like I said, this is optional. You definitely don't have to do this part. I just really like the handmade look that it gives it, and it takes away that logo and that branding that's at the top of the notepads. See, it already looks like a different notepad just with that little bit of scrapbook paper. And then this will fit right inside of this part of the notebook. That's why I didn't add any scrapbook paper there, because you really wouldn't have been able to see much around the outside. So it's up to you how you want to glue this one in. I think I'm going to add just a little bit of double-sided tape up towards the top, because when you're ripping off sheets of paper, that's where a lot of the pressure is going to be. And I feel like this will just give it a bit of a better hold. So I think I'm just going to add 2 strips of double-sided tape at the top here. But you could actually just use your art glitter glue, whatever kind of wet adhesive you like. Or actually for this part, you could probably even get away with using some hot glue too. Yeah, and then for the rest of this, because I do want this part stuck down also, I'll just add some of my art glitter glue all over the rest of this. But like I said, the top part here, when you're ripping off sheets of paper, that's where the most pressure is going to be applied, so I wanted to make sure I had a good hold there. And then there's enough space here too that you can leave a little bit of a border the whole way around your notepad, so you see some of that nice background color in there. And then I like to lift up all the paper, and I just go in with my bone folder and give it a good burnish. Make sure that glue really catches everywhere. And then I also like to close it up and burnish it one more time from the other side. And that is our quick and easy folio. I am going to decorate it a little bit, and I did want to show you on this one, I used one of the journaling cards that came in the paper pack to create a little flap here. That was mostly because I had actually, I don't know what happened. I got a big smudge right here. So I needed to put something here to cover up that smudge. So I put that there, and then I used the journaling card as part of the cover. But I actually like how this looks as, because it's kind of centered here in the notebook. So I think I'm going to do that again with this one. And this one, I didn't add any kind of closure. I just made the cover, you know, it just flaps over on its own. But when I do this one, I am going to use a little Velcro dot as a closure. So this is one of the journaling cards that came in this pack. So let me get one of these cut out, and then I'll show you how I'm going to attach all of that together, and then we'll decorate the inside a little bit. Alright, so this was the journaling card that I picked out. It says, "Brisk and blustery autumn day." And this is where, if you have corner rounders, you could round the corners of these. You could even round the corners of the flap here. But like I said, I'm trying to make this without any fancy tools, just so that this is, you know, adaptable to either beginners or pros. And then along with that journaling card, I did go ahead and take one of the scraps that I had, and I cut out a piece that's 3 by 4 because that's the same size as, or the same size as this journaling card. And I'm gonna put the journaling card on one side of this piece of cardstock, which measures 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And I'm gonna put the pattern paper on the other side, and you'll see why I'm doing that. If you don't put the pattern paper on the other side, it's really not a big deal. I'll show you what I did on the other one, because on the other one I didn't do any of the cardstock on the back side. Here's the card. Here you can see I have the journal card on the front and I have the pattern paper on the back. So this is where I'm going to put that as a little cover. And the reason I did the cardstock around it is just because since this has a pattern here, and there's also a pattern here and a pattern here, having this solid line around it just breaks it up so that it stands out a bit more. So what I'm going to do now is just about, I'd say 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to add just a little bit of glue here to this side. If you get a little bit too much glue, it's okay. You can always wipe it off, but just try to make sure that you have just enough to get on the flap of your paper. And then right in the center here, I'm going to try to make this as straight as I can. I'm going to give it just a light press to make sure that that looks like it's centered and straight, which I think it does. Okay, now I'm going to press it in firm and give it a little bit of a burnish. I always find that when I'm using any type of adhesive, whether it's double-sided tape or wet glue, I always like to hit it with my bone folder a little bit because I think it just helps set it in place. So now you can see we have our little journal card on the front, and then when you open it up, you have this nice pattern here. So on my first one, I didn't put any cardstock on the back. And when I opened it up initially, it just looked so stark white and plain, but I was able to find a big sticker in the sticker pack to break this, you know, big blank area up a little bit. So if you do forget to add the cardstock on the back side, no big deal, just throw a sticker on there. All right, I'm gonna grab the sticker sheet for this pack and I'm gonna go through and decorate it up. Oh, one last thing before I start decorating. If you want to add some kind of closure, this is when you would want to do it before you start decorating. So like I said, I'm just going to use some Velcro dots for this one. Actually, I'm just going to use one Velcro dot. And I have both sides stuck together here, so I'm just going to peel the backer off of one side. I'm going to stick it down. The other nice thing too about having 3 layers of cardstock on this flap is it makes it a little bit thicker and sturdier, so that as you're opening and closing it all of the time, it has a little more weight to it, so it'll hold up over time. So before I close this down, I want to make sure everything's like squared up and everything's the way it needs to be to close, because once I stick that Velcro down, it's going to be there. Okay, and then we'll give that a press. Hit it with the bone folder, and there we go. I like these Velcro dots. They're a little bit clear. They're not as white as the other ones. They really blend into the pattern paper. You could also use magnets if you'd like, but I had the Velcro on hand and I didn't have any magnets, so I thought I'd just stick with the Velcro. All right, now that my Velcro dot's in place, I'm going to go through the sticker pack and start decorating. Decorating pretty simple. I don't like to use a ton of stickers, especially when I'm using bolder patterns like what I have here. So other than the journaling card on the front, I didn't add anything. And then I chose not to add any stickers on this part either, but I did add a couple little mushrooms here, which I thought was cute. And then I just scattered some other stickers. And I really loved that there was a sticker that matched this paper. I thought that was so neat. So here's our little pocket. You can see you can slide things really easily in and out of here. And if you're going to give this as a gift, I think this would be a cute way to leave them a little note. You could either slip a letter or a card in here, or you could even just write them a little note on the cover. And then anytime that I make any kind of notebook or journal, I always like to add a little sticker on the back, on the bottom. I don't know why, it's just kind of my thing. And I feel like it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't take a little trip to the Dollar Tree. So let me show you how I would package this up. And since, you know, we're at the time of year where a lot of people are starting to think about back to school, I'm going to package this up as if you were giving this to a teacher for back to school. So in the Dollar Tree, they always have a ton of little storage containers. And my mom is a retired school teacher and my cousin is teaching currently. So I was able to talk to them, and I know one thing that teachers always love to get are any kind of supplies for the classroom, and they always need more things to get organized with. So from some of the storage aisles, you can find a small container. Then I went over to the school supplies. I grabbed just a few things. I know pencils and glue sticks are something that are always needed in the classroom. And I know that teachers always need Post-it notes so that they can, you know, send notes with kids to other teachers and whatnot. And it never hurts to give a teacher a little bit of a snack to get them through the day. So over in the snack aisle, I picked out two things that I thought a teacher would like. So in this rectangle container here, I'm going to slide in my pencils and my glue sticks first because those are a little bit bulkier, so those can fit on the bottom. And then I can add in my Post-its. And of course, we got our little snack treats here for our teacher friends. And then you can place your little gifts for them, your little personalized legal pad on the top, and then the lid. I mean, it's packed pretty full, but with this snapping feature on this type of container, it helps the lid close a little bit better. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really do love paper crafting. I have a ton of scrapbook paper in my stash that I'm really happy to work through. I hope you found some inspiration from these legal pad covers. I think they make great gifts. I think they're great for craft fairs. Let me know in the comments if there's any other kinds of paper crafts you'd like to see. I have a few more ideas that I'd like to share with you, but I'm always looking for new ideas. So if you have any questions or if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming to hang out with me again today. I hope you found some inspiration. Don't forget, I'll have all of the measurements for this listed in the description box below. All right, I hope you have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.